Hello, geeks and ghouls. This is another video in the toxic author types, and today I'm talking to you about what I call the boomer author. And before I continue with this video, let me tell you something. This video is not supposed to be ageist. What I call a boomer author can be quite young, but I will talk about the youngest in this category separately because there's something different about them. And of course, not all of the older authors in a community are toxic. A lot of them are actually great. They're not toxic, they add to the community, they don't create drama, and okay, they may ask some questions that they don't understand, but you know what, that's what a community is for, to help you. So if you're older and you feel that this video is about you, odds are it's not. The whole concept of these videos is to take some examples of those annoying authors we all know and poke some fun about their problematic behavior, maybe try to analyze what drives them, how can you deal with them. I mean, I've got almost 20 years of being in the fandom and organizing online forums and stuff in writer communities, so I've met all of them. But the main idea is to do that in a very memeable way, in using a word that people will understand. And the boomer meme is very recognizable to everybody. It writes itself. You've got "okay boomer" or "I'm such a boomer" that are often used on the internet, and everybody understands what this is supposed to be, what those two memes are about. "Okay boomer" is used to talk about the out of touch person who is mostly older or acts like they're older, and "I'm such a boomer" is a good way to say that I did something wrong, especially when it comes to technology. Baby boomers or boomers are the generation that was born after World War II. I think it's from 1945 to 1965, and we call them that because back then there was a baby boom. A lot of children were born after World War II. But in today's lingo, in internet speak, a boomer is someone who is both out of touch with the modern world, with technology, or with how young people act, especially on the internet, and also a person that is entitled and pig-headed, that won't get that they don't understand something. And a lot of the conflict between boomers and millennials or zoomers, the current generations of people under 40, is not just a part of them being, in the same space, but there is a lot of economic unrest between them because boomers and Gen Xers have amassed quite a lot of wealth that millennials and zoomers lack and they don't have access to. So there is this aspect of conflict between generations. So yeah, that's what explains a lot about this boomer millennial struggle. But let's get to the boomer author, because what I call the boomer author, at least, and it's more often than not an older male person, and they are this author who is in a group and is always asking all sort of questions about how this is done and about how that is done, because apparently Google is beyond their tech skills. But despite them asking for help, they are also extremely bad at taking any suggestion or criticism or understanding that what they believe may be wrong. When their worldview is challenged, they lash out. For instance, let's suppose you have a critique group and you bring a manuscript and you suggest that this person's, the boomer author's manuscript, has something that you did not like, and they will argue because you criticize them. They will lash out to you. They'll try to explain that no, you're wrong, they're right. And that sort of beats the purpose of a critique group, okay? But yes, they'll insist on their use of language, of syntax, of concepts, of ideas, because this is how they've learned something. And or this is something they read that kids today like.
How do you do, fellow kids?
What?
They'll be like something, in my time, son, writing 30-line long sentences was the proper way to write literature. And I don't care what you young people read in your young adult books. They're rotting your brain. This is this kind of attitude they'll go for. Or, you know what? I've read on the internet that you should write very short sentences all the time. And that's how it's done. That's how you'll get an agent to sign you. I know. Same thing applies when they go on some tirade about social issues or etiquette or politics or whatever, having a antiquated opinion, I guess. For instance, the boomer author will be the type of person to say something like, women are magical creatures giving birth. And tell you what, at this point, most people will just roll their eyes and they will think,
Whatever you say, boomer.
but I'm pretty certain there will also be the 10 feminists of the group that will go on, not all women have ovaries, not all women give birth to children. Educate yourself. After this exchange, be prepared to have a meltdown. Boomer author type would definitely not understand what the deal is, or maybe they will misunderstand the whole point. They're mostly old people, and old people have problems rewiring their brains. I mean, alright, I'm 38 years old, and I find myself, as I get older, to be less likely to adopt some ideas. That's an effect on the human brain. It's very hard to rewire your brain if you're used to something. But then again, not all boomer authors are old. Alright, you can find much younger people to be the boomer type, as young as 20 years old. Again, they're a separate category, but you'll find people in their 30s or their 40s acting boomerish. It mostly comes out to boredom. They're too bored to learn, or they lack the education to learn, while feeling that they know what they're doing. They feel like they're the shit. And these two factors is what will lead to the boomer author. Yeah, it's not about conservative worldviews. I mean, I've met quite a few leftist boomer types, and talking with them can be frustrating too. Yeah, it's all a combination of ignorance and stubbornness. You know who is a perfect example of the boomer author? J.K. Rowling. Technically, she is 1 year too young to be considered a boomer. She was born on the first year. We have the Gen Xers, the next generation of people. I think that's 1965. I'm not quite sure though. But yes, she's a talented author, she's very successful. Her Harry Potter books were a blast, and she clearly had the ego to go through a lot of the struggles she met in her life, and we have to give her that. However, she has this habit of doing some very dumb and uninformed statements, and when she gets called out, she will double down. I mean, she had some awful views. She said that Harry Potter is not fantasy because it's not in a medieval setting.
Okay, boomer.
She said that Hermione could be black.
Okay, boomer.
And then she went on the gender critical warpath when a lot of her fandom realized how stupid she was. However, I will die on the hill that Dumbledore was always gay, because I have read the part where Dumbledore remembers when he first met Voldemort, and I was like, there's no way in hell a straight man is describing another dude this way. So yeah, it was there all along. Dumbledore was gay. I'm dying on that hill. So yeah, you realize that the toxicity of the boomer author is because they create drama out of their big-headed stupidity. They siphon out a lot of energy by being annoying, asking things all the time, and being competitive when they are challenged, because they are set in their own ways and they think that they deserve to be helped because of their superiority, because of age, or because of their perceived talent. So the best treatment against the boomer author, and this is where the name comes from, the term comes from for me, is to learn how to ignore them and you should use the mantra, okay, boomer. It helps a lot with them. Speaking of older authors, I said that the boomer author is more often than not older and male. And I say that because the older women who are not quite comfortable with technology or with modern concepts, they do not fit this category often. I'll call them the auntie author types for this video, and I know that's ageist again, but whatever. Older people can teach us a lot. So yes, I'm just being, tongue-in-cheek here. Don't feel called out by this. Or you know what? If they are younger, I'll call them the Bibo type, and I'll also be sexist, not only ableist but sexist. And what I mean with that is we have this person who is constantly asking for help, for validation, but they lack the conviction to make decisions. They want you to make their decisions for you. They want you to make their decision for them. And I think this comes from traditional gender roles. Men are taught to be assertive, women are taught to ask for help. So when somebody is ignorant, somebody is challenged to learn something, genders tend to react in different ways. Of course, there will be women who will also call you out, right? And they're part of the boomer sort of thing. It's not a hard rule, okay? It's down to the person. It's a combination of ignorance, ego, and willingness to suppress that ego. And if you can suppress that ego, you're on your way to be a good author or understand how things work, having insight into how things work. The anti-type is definitely less toxic. They're not creating drama, but there's a bit of a drain. So at some point, it's a good idea to set limits if you have a person like that near you, a person who is always asking not only for help but for advice and to make the decision for them. That's a problem. They will drain you. Finally, I have talked about the young boomer because I have met 2 or 3 people who I realized fit this description quite well, and they were very young. I think the oldest one was my age, but 10 years ago, and I've met a couple of younger people that are this way. What is this? I'll call that baby boomer just to be, tongue-in-cheek again. It's often a young man, again because of gender roles, and he will be the person asking questions after question after question after question, always trying to make the conversation about them and their work. They ask for help while giving nothing back. And this is also the litter author type I've spoken about in another video. But they're also the people who will create drama out of their neediness or their ignorance. And here's the sad part. These people are likely to be in the spectrum. So the reason they're annoying is not from not understanding technical aspects or rules, but from failing to read the room. And they assume that this is a community helping each other, they can ask for help, not getting the idea that yes, there's a limit to the times you can ask for help and you have to do tit for tat. Or it comes from them applying certain rules verbatim, despite not fitting the current situation, and then trying to find what other rules work because it does not compute. But okay, I'm not a psychologist, so I cannot speak about neurotypical people or neurodiverse people, but what can I say is be nice to them. It's not their fault they're like that. They're different from the boomer type. It's the reality. You'll meet them, and at some point you have to learn how to set limits and how not to let yourself be triggered by them. That's it. That's what can I say? Well, what I have to say about the boomer author. I hope you liked this video. If you did, press the like button, subscribe, share it to your writer friends. If you want to, to have them see what they can do, or if you have a friend dealing with this kind of person, share this video to them. It will be of help. And as always, stay spooky.